Okay, doing the one today on a D+A Raider. One of the D+A smaller amps just uses 4 baldies, 6 JG6 tubes. However, the 6 KV6 tube is the best of the baldies, but 6 KV6s have gotten pretty expensive and not hard to find, but they just got expensive. So I had a set of 4 new old stock 22 kV6s laying around. So I did something I don't usually do. I stuck in the 22 kV6s and put them in series and used a dropping resistor. Used Ohm's law to figure out what dropping resistor I needed, and put a dropping resistor in there and ran it off the AC mains for the filament. So this one has 4 new old stock 22 kV6s, which is the best of the baldies in it. Old Raider, and this one is also mono banded, 10 meters only. That 10 through 40 band switch there is just a fake knob. It has no band switch and no of the other ham bands in it. It only has 10 meters in it. Basically a normal tune, and the low just uses that little trimmer there with no knob on it. So normal tuning load for the output. I've seen some D+As, they actually use that meter for a amp meter, but on this one it's a relative RF out meter, aka watt meter. But anyway, relative watt meter, meaning it's not really calibrated, but it does show output. Pilot light, power switch, standby, and then BTL stands for bilateral, meaning preamp, amplified going out, and then a preamp going in, and that's where they get the bilateral from, is amplified, going out and going in. However, the preamp on this one has also been taken out, and that BTL is now a SSB delay switch. On these D+As from the factory, some of them had SSB switches, but some of them that did not have a SSB switch, it did what Black Cat did. It had a medium delay on at all times. So the medium delay was a little bit long for AM and a little bit short for SSB, but it was a compromise with the medium delay. However, this one has regular short delay with the switch up, I believe, and a long delay for SSB with the switch down, and no bilateral, no preamp. And the preamps in these sucked anyway, so kind of useless. The same with the band switches. Gonna look up top. Rather smallest transformer that goes in there. A lot of people like to take these little small, 100 watt amps or so, and push them hard, and they'll get the watts out for a minute, and then the next thing you know, you're gonna blow tubes. And sooner or later, you're going to blow the transformer, usually sooner than later. And you'll see a lot of people, looking for transformers for their amplifiers. And that's usually a big sign that they pushed them too hard. They got, tried to get too much out of them. And like I said, you'll get it for a minute, but that transformer is not going to do a lot of watts for a long time. That tube right there is a King tube. I think they used a 6AQ5 in there. Some of them used a 12AQ5, just a 6-volt or 12-volt filament. And then those are the 4 baldies, the 6KV6, which is the king of the baldy tubes. This is a heavy-duty baldy tube, even though that's kind of a misrepresentation. It's not that heavy-duty of a tube, but it is the heavy duty, the best of the baldies. The reason why they call them baldies is no plate on top. The ones with the plate on cap, I don't know what you would call them, but they are not baldies. Where glass on top, no plate connection on the top. Their short or nickname is baldies. And you can see the meat in that 6KV6. If you look at a 6JG6 or some of the other 6JT6, I think, they don't have as much plate, don't have as much meat, and therefore they won't do quite as much or last quite as long as these. So these are the best of the baldy tubes. 4 tubes, grounded grid, you know, no turbocharging, nothing fancy. D+A did not turbocharge the screen grid. They're just basic grounded grid amplifiers. That's why with D+A you'll see, you know, like the Phantom 500 is 4 driving 6 because it's not turbocharged, and even the Maverick 250 is 4 driving 4, because there's not a lot of gain, you know, in them tubes. Just one stage, just 4 outputs, and a keying circuit or a keying tube. So we're gonna turn it over. You know, just a basic amp. This one's been recapped and cleaned up and all ready to go. It's got a tuner on the back called Grid Tune. That's the input tune. You can use that to adjust for input SWR. And then that's the insides. It's not overly complicated amp because again it's grounded grid. So just a basic amp. High voltage diodes, high voltage caps. Those resistors are the dropping resistors for the filament. And again, on this one, the filament is taken off the mains. It's not something I normally recommend, but since I had a hard time finding 6KV6s, and you know, they going for 35 a piece or so, and I didn't want to put, you know, $125, $150 worth of tubes in this thing, especially when I had the 22KV6s, you know, same tube, this higher filament laying around. So I did go ahead and put the 22KV6s in it, but that's a basic amp. And I guess that's enough show. We're gonna carefully turn her over. And be careful with this D+A amp, there's no bleeders. And I have not added bleeder to it yet. I'm going to set the camera down. I can carefully turn this bad boy over. It runs about 800 on the plate, no load. And about 600, it drops down to 600 at full load. And that's from the schematic, from the manual. That's not from me. I'll do another video coming up later, but a lot of people are asking about, you know, capacitors and power supplies, and you know, what caps do I use and all that. I say you want at least the voltage or more, and then you want at least the UFs or more, and it's usually a good idea to up the UFs because back in the day, the 60s, 70s, when these amps were made, electrolytic capacitors were large and expensive. And, you know, what do manufacturers do when something's, you know, both takes up a lot of real estate and is expensive? They kind of scrimp on them. Nowadays, electrolytics are probably a third of the size of what they were in the old days. And you can get more bang for the buck, and they're not terribly expensive anymore. So you can up the UFs, up the voltage, have a better, you know, safety factor, have better regulation, and in my opinion, a better amp if you up the UFs as you go. And while I'm letting it warm up, I was looking at the Drake L4B because I think I have one L4 and two L7s at the moment that I'm going to redo. And the L4 and L7 originally come with 200 UF capacitors in the high voltage, 8 of them in series. But if you look at the Harbach replacement capacitors, they go from 8 200 UFs to 8 330 UF capacitors. That's from Harbach. you know. And like I say, I recommend going up if you can. But anyway, we ought to be warmed up, and hopefully if nothing's you know, out of place and all that, I'm on my little Chris Mud Duck radio there on a dummy load, no false watts. So keying it down, it's got an input SWR of 1.4, pretty good. And I'm dead keying over here at 50 watts. Looks like I'm on peak already. Hello, 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 audio, audio, audio. Talking about 125 peak. Audio. And that's about all these little Raiders will do if you don't overdrive them. A lot of people, you know, hit them harder and, you know, put, you know, 7, 10, 15 watts into it, you know, swing to 40. And, you know, they'll do a couple hundred watts for, you know, if you push them hard like that for a minute, but it won't hold up like that. Anyway, last we're going to put it on average. Audio, 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 about 75. Audio. Might hit 80 on average. Hello, hello, hello. And again, 4-watt radio going into it. Running nice and cool. It'll do that all day. Don't push them. You'll kill them. Alright, that's going to be it today for the D+A Raider with the 4 baldies in it. Alright, bye.